Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to another pair of subscriber replays. Now, what we've got here is a couple of games where the average number of kills, averaged over both games, is quite impressive, but the distribution of those kills is a little bit wonky. So, we are kicking off proceedings with... No, it must be a test account or something. I'm not even going to try it. GSOR 3301 AVR FF. No, look, I'm pretty sure I know who's driving this, but just to save me potentially saying the wrong name repeatedly and attributing this replay to someone who it wasn't, I'm just going to call this person Bob, because that's a mouthful. I'm sure the person in question, if they wish to make their identity known, will happily do so in the comments. Anyway, Bob here is driving the Kanonen Jagdpanzer 105. This is a bit of an interesting machine, shall we say. Many moons ago, Wargaming decided to introduce the Kanonen Jagdpanzer as a Tier 8 German premium tank destroyer. And back in the day, the Kanonen Jagdpanzer had a 90mm gun, and I think what they were going for was making an E25 but at tier 8, but that was a bit more easily balanced. They didn't really succeed. The Kanonen Jagdpanzer was a terrible machine. In fact, it was so terrible that subsequently Wargaming released a version of it with the 105mm gun, which is what you see here, and they said to everyone with the 90mm armed variant, look, we know the K-pop Panther was appalling. If you want, you can trade your 90mm armed version for the one with the bigger gun. No extra charge or anything, you can just trade Reno them if you like. If you want both, then we'll give you the option to keep the 90mm Kanonen Jagdpanzer and pick up the one with the bigger gun at a reduced price. So everyone agreed the 90mm Kanonen Jagdpanzer, despite the various buffs that Wargaming tried to give it. Everyone agreed it was rubbish, and it's still in the game, and it's still rubbish. I have one. I have both Kanonen Jagdpanzers. But this is the 105mm armed one. So, the 105mm, clearly it fixed all the problems and everything was hunky-dory and the machine is perfectly balanced and it's great, right? Yeah, not so much. So... the Kanonen Jagdpanzer with the 105mm gun might be more comfortable, I think, for most people to play, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's objectively better. You lose the DPM of the 90mm gun, as it was, whatever DPM it had anyway. So the DPM on the Kanonen with the 105 is atrocious. And you also lose a bunch of hit points. The 90mm armed variant has a 1200 hit point pool, and you can see here the 105mm armed variant has a 1050 hit point pool, so you lose 150 hit points. I believe you're also slightly more sluggish. I think the gun is a little bit heavier, so you're a bit, heavier, so you're not quite as mobile, but that's, to be fair, a relatively small point. So the Kanonen Jagdpanzer is still a pretty bad machine, I think, by most accounts. I haven't actually played the 105mm armed version yet. I have played the 90mm one. It's not very good. But anyway, I digress. All that is a very roundabout way of saying that Bob here, in his K-pop Panther, is camping like it's going out of fashion. Because frankly, that's kind of what you end up having to do in this thing a lot, as far as I can see. You certainly do in the 90mm armed one. So it is relatively fast, and you do have a fairly punchy gun. You've got, 268 pen and 390 alpha. Basically, this is very similar to the 105mm gun you find mounted on a whole bunch of Tier 9 and Tier 10 medium tanks. But the overall package is just rather painful. But we're here on Cliff, and the scoreline is 3-4, so the friendly team are about even on kills, to be fair, but you can see they've lost quite a lot of map control, and to be fair, having lost a lot of map control is allowing campy tank destroyers like Bob here to kind of farm up a bit of a storm. So that's Bob's third kill, 2,145 damage done, in case you weren't paying any attention. And we're going to see how much that can increase by. I might have shots here on the CS44, but that CS44's like, nope, I don't think so. SU-130PM took a bit of a cheeky poke round the corner there by the look of it, but the Centurion is doing things, and yes, a 105mm shell with 270 penetration did just bounce off the broadside of a Centurion Mark 1. Please do not adjust your sets. That did, in fact, happen. Unfortunately, Bob gets spotted here as he picks up the kill on the IS-5. Not a tank you see very often, the IS-5. As far as I can work out, it's generally considered pretty terrible, which is probably why you don't see it very often, but, you know, them's the breaks. So, Centurion, CS-44, SU-130PM, might be able to get shots on him. No, there's a rock in the way. Well, that's a bit of a shame. This is one of those awkward situations where you can use concealment as much as you like, but if the enemy team have 3 brain cells to rub together, they know where you are. Because the campy locations on this map are pretty obvious as a general rule of thumb. Going for a shot, are we going to get a shot on the Centurion there? Doesn't look like it. So, I'm in fact amazed the enemy team haven't already been blind firing that bush to Bob's right-hand side in the hopes of nailing themselves a K-pop Panther, but they haven't. Scoreline is 6-7. It's probably worth pointing out at this venture that of those kills, 4 of them are on Bob here. So, if Bob dies, well, the rest of the team may or may not do enormously well, and kill number 5, finally on the Centurion. I think that was a bit overdue. I think Bob really should have penetrated that shot earlier on the Centurion, but, you know, you get unlucky sometimes, and sometimes you get hideously lucky. So, 2,500 damage. 5 kills is actually quite a lot, considering the relatively low damage count and the fact that this is a tier 8 machine. This is, by the way, 510 matchmaking. I didn't notice it at the beginning, and it's a bigger gun, but turns out E25 tracks are OP, right? Anyway, 5 kills is quite a lot, sorry, for that damage count, 2,500 damage, roughly. So, a lot of these shots have been kind of one-shot kills. Not all of them, but quite a few of them, and that's annoying. The SU-130PM picks up the Stura Emil, which, yeah, blind shot time, can't really say I blame him there, but that's a little bit awkward. So, SU-130PM, Eagle 7, and a bunch of tier 7s that I'm not going to go through. We know the E25's a one-shot. Pretty sure, if memory serves, the SU-130 was a one-shot. We've got, who's this? AT-15A is a 2-shot. Realistically, I think technically, pretty sure Bob could roll high enough to kill that guy. I can't be bothered to do the exact maths in my head, but I'm pretty sure he could roll high enough. But you can't assume that that will be the case. And thus, the camp-off begins. Now, the slightly awkward thing here is if anybody comes down the 1 or 2 lines, there's not really many people on Bob's team to do the spotting. And they just lost their T69. In fact, it would probably be Bob or the artillery. I guess or the E25, to be fair, but they're very much away to one side. And there goes the Eagle, there goes the artillery. And suddenly it's a pair of German tank destroyers, premium tank destroyers, looking to take on the world. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so there are 7 of them. So they're outnumbered 3.5 to 1. I mean, I'm sure they're good odds, right? Well, T-34 2GFT there. Ooh, have we got a shot on this guy? Have we got a shot? Not really sure where this guy's aiming. It's not as if Bob's location is a subtle one. Well, let me rephrase. It's not as if there are many options left on the map. And actually Bob decides, I've been in that position quite long enough. Let's be somewhere else. He takes a shot from the E25, which is a little bit irritating, but not the end of the world. But I think relocating here is eminently sensible. Because, you know, you were spotted, they just have easy shots on you. Lovely shot there on the T-34 2GFT. Very nicely done, and the E25, who for the record has the amazing name of the Tomato of Doom, finishes that guy off. Beautiful name right there. So, Bob here and the E25, who for the record is called... Oh, I just said that, Tomato of Doom. Why did I need to check? Oh, I'm just so slow at the minute. Anyway, they, between them, have 7 kills. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 enemy tanks left. They've reduced the odds from 3.5 to 1 to 2.5 to 1. I mean, better's better, right? Unfortunately, Bob doesn't have quite such a dominant firing position, but Tomato does. So, I guess we'll just run with this. Now, if we have a look at what's left on the enemy team... Hello, Mr. AT-25. Yeah, well, he's gone. Now, that's really good, because he really is the last tank on the enemy team who, armor-wise, could have given Tomato of Doom in his E-25 real problems. I mean, Bob here has enough pen to deal with pretty much anything without too much difficulty, but the Tomato of Doom only has 150 odd penetration with his armor-piercing rounds. Of course, that goes up to about 200 with APCR, but yeah, even 200 can be awkward against an AT-25 sometimes. Anyway, there's the enemy E-25, and come on, Tomato. Tomato! Or Bob, like either of them, doesn't matter, let's just finish this guy off. We've reduced the odds to 2 to 1, although they are still outnumbered. Now, the enemy E-25 is actually, by the looks of it, if we look at the minimap behind a rock there, but the Tomato of Doom is not worrying about that. He's actually in front of the rock, and Bob is manages to pick up the kill after the Tomato of Doom flushes the enemy E-25 out. Really nicely done there. And that just leaves the SU-130PM, the Eagle 7 and the S-51, and if I were on their team, suddenly I would be sweating bullets, because we've gone from outnumbering the enemy 3.5 to 1 to, well, 1.5 to 1. And between them, the last 2 tanks on the enemy team, enemy from, like, their perspective, have 9 kills, which is, well, that's definitely a thing, and how is the Eagle 7 on full health? Blimey. Well, never mind, there goes the Tomato of Doom, unfortunately, which leaves Bob alone against 3 opponents just before he shuts down the SU-130PM. And this is an interesting situation. So we've got the Eagle 7, which is a kind of sluggish Tier 7 American medium tank, and the S-51, which is, of course, a big fat SPG, versus Bob here in his Kanonen Jagdpanzer. The E-25, bless him, is apologising in chat, but actually, to be fair to him, I think he did alright. Flushing out the enemy E-25 was really useful, certainly. Now, Bob is trying to pick up shots and firing solutions here. That shot has taken the wall down. It's unlikely to hit the Eagle 7, but it didn't get spotted either. And for all its faults, the Kanonen Jagdpanzer is a pretty low-profile machine, so I would assume, therefore, it has fairly respectable camo, and yeah, no, I was just checking. That blind shot didn't hit the Eagle. So what are the enemy going to do about it? And indeed, what is Bob going to do about it? In a straight-out DPM shoot-off fight, it's awkward because the Kanonen Jagdpanzer for a Tier 8 tank destroyer doesn't actually have very good DPM, but Tier 7 medium tank, Eagle 7, probably got even worse DPM. But the Eagle currently has more hit points and would have artillery support, so if you're Bob, whoa, that was close. If you're Bob here, you don't really want to get yourself caught out in a straight-up gunnery duel where you're spotted. You want to approach from sneaky directions and all that jazz, but you need to be very conscious of the fact that you've got less than 3 minutes left on the clock to do all this. Now, I think there would be an argument for saying go after artillery now, the difficulty being, depending on where the Eagle has positioned himself, he might be able to get shots on you if you do go after artillery. So that's a little bit awkward, but it is something I guess you could try and do if you were really worried about that SPG. As it is, this is an awkward position. Like, Bob is down to 2 minutes on this game to win it. Now, obviously, he could pick up a draw or something, but well, that doesn't really... not really the sort of thing you want to be doing. And with less than 2 minutes on the clock, Bob is no longer going to be able to go back to the enemy base to cap, if he ever thought that was an option. I don't think it ever really was in this game, to be fair. But that option has now definitely been closed off. The 1375 in the friendly team is asking if it's a draw, and Bob clearly thinks at this point it probably will be, but to be fair to him, that doesn't mean he seems content with that being the case. I mean, he's already done 3,500 damage and picked up a Radley Walters medal, so he's definitely been pulling his weight in this game, but I think there's just a little bit of carrying left to do. You know, I mentioned earlier on you could hunt down the artillery. Well, there we go. But, unfortunately, because that play was done a little later, there's, like I said, not enough time to pressure the cap. So if the enemy Eagle wants this to be a draw, it's probably going to be quite difficult to make it not a draw. But if I were the Eagle 7, I would come out and fight Bob, because I don't play for draws, in case anyone's never heard my opinion on this. Why would you play for anything other than a win? You get no benefit for it whatsoever. Anyway, 50 seconds left on the clock. Come on, Bob. Come on, Bob. We're also getting into the point that maybe Bob doesn't have the DPM to kill the Eagle, even if he finds him. Oh, come on, 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 come on. Where is he? Where is he? 35 seconds left. Is Bob going to be able to do this, or is it going to be a heartbreak? 9 kills, 3.7k damage. There is the Eagle. Boom. Right. We need another 2 shots like that, please. This is going to be quite close. The Eagle is, I have no idea what the Eagle's doing. Maybe this is one of the rentals given to newer players. But he's just not fighting back. He's trying to run away, and this isn't really going to work out for him. And with less than 10 seconds left on the clock, Bob is able to pick up the kill on the Eagle 7 and finish this game out. Thankfully, that Eagle was not a formidable opponent. Maybe you could have worked that out by the fact that at the end of the game he was still on full health and had no kills, but it is what it is. So let's take a look at the post-battle results for Bob here in his Kanun and Jagdpanzer 105. So in the end, that was enough for an ace tanker, perhaps unsurprisingly. Bruiser, Fire for Effect, Top Gun, High Caliber, and of course, taunting me with that Paul's medal. In fact, if you count it up, pretty sure, we're going to find out in a second, but I'm pretty sure Bob damaged 13 of the enemy team. That's quite a lot of them. 5,321 damage done, 10 kills, or 1,538 base experience, bearing in mind, of course, that most of that damage was going to be done from relatively close range where Bob wasn't spotting. Otherwise, 10 kills and 5k damage is going to be more than 1,500 XP at tier 8. 29 shots fired, 21 hits, 18 pens for that damage count, 3,000 of which was from over 300 metres. Only one hit received, which is a little surprising, but we'll run with it. 3 enemy vehicles spotted, 12 damage. Sorry, it was 12 damage, not 13. 10 destroyed, 123 assistance damage, 4.2 kilometres travelled, right down to the wire. The battle duration was 14 minutes and 56 seconds. But of course, this is a premium tank. Did it make any money? It did, 89,000 credits worth of it. 35,000 credits on ammunition. Bob, I don't believe, fired any premium ammo. It's just the 105mm ammo that this gun fires is quite pricey. It's over 1,000 credits per shot. And it looks like, in fact, I know he was, because you can see it in the replay, Bob was running chocolate, which is where that 20,000 credit cost comes from. So, a pretty profitable game, to be fair. So that's the first one for you. Let's have a look at the second, which is going to be a little bit different. Here we go with game number 2 then, and whilst our first game was a long-winded, slow grind down of the enemy team with a tight, tense ending and a considerable number of kills, this game is going to be about as different as you can possibly imagine. We're here on Westfield. It's a tier 9 match, so no longer top tier. In fact, there are no tier 7s to shoot at, so tier 8 is as low as it gets. We're not in the K-pop Panther, which sucks. We're in the Renegade, which whilst I've not played it, I am reliably informed that it's considered a pretty good machine. And we're here joining El Capitan once more, Capitan Vistic. So, he's going to come over to the place that, well, people often come over to on Westfield because it's one of the most important locations on the map, the hilly region over a sort of C3. Being in an American tank, you would expect the Renegade to have pretty good gun depression. Oh, that WZ is having a bad day. Pretty good gun depression, and so he should be pretty good at fighting on this ridgeline. One thing he does need to watch out for, there's a nice big Commander's cupola on the top of his tank, which could get a little bit awkward. Ooh, lovely shot into the lower front plate on the Object 263 there. Nice bit of shooting. So yeah, need to be careful of that sort of top hat on top of the turret. But, you know, if we can... If people aren't able to consistently put shots into that, then as far as I understand it, the Renegade's armour should hold up fairly well. Nice gun on this tank. This seems to be one of the newer generation of 105mm guns. That, if I can ever get over it, gets 360 alpha damage, 226mm of penetration with armour piercing, is about par for the course for a tier 8 heavy tank. Out of curiosity, what's the APCR? 255 pen. Fair enough. Hello, Mr. 50 prototype. You can have a bit of a slapping in the face too. And there's an E75. Since the buff, that thing seems a bit of a monster, I'll be honest, and he manages to get away without, well, a pasting. Looks like the T-34 might be trying something a little bit sneaky. Bounces the shot there from the E-75. Can we shoot the T-34? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. And track him into the bargain. Nice high damage roll. E-75 is reversing out. Doesn't take any damage for it, but worth pointing out. The friendly team is 3 kills to 0 up, by the way. Now, it's probably worth pointing out that with so many tanks up at this location on Westfield, what you often find is that the battle tends to be decided up here, because the winning team often has such a numerical advantage at that point that it's very difficult for the... Ooh, sometimes RNG is with you. A lovely little snipe into the commander's hatch on the E75. Because by the time you've won this location, you've often managed to grind out, you know, a not insignificant numerical advantage. In Tinky Tonks, there's some revenge into the IS-6 there. Interestingly, the only guy who's actually damaged El Capitan here so far is the IS-6, a tank not exactly renowned for having high penetration or anything, and often considered a bit dodgy, but all the same. Nice shot there into the side of the E75, and with the scoreline at 6-1, I think what one might fairly reasonably conclude that the enemy team is not having the best of this engagement. I did kind of insinuate at the beginning that this is not going to be a game that goes on forever. Repeated shots there into the lower front plate on the Object 263. Clearly his Stalinium shield is not holding up. Can we pick up the kill? We can, but it's a low damage roll, although given some of the other... no, against the 263 to be fair, that's 3 low damage rolls in a, well, row. Go figure. 60 TP over there on the ridge line, but these guys, the enemy team is not having a good day here. Another shot into that 50 TP, doesn't manage to kill him with another low damage roll, but in case you're not paying attention to the amount of damage El Capitan here is picking up, it's quite a lot. We're up to 4.5, over 4,500 now. Jagdtiger wondering where all his friends have gone. Char Future 4 deciding, screw you friends, I'm going somewhere else. And the enemy E75 deciding that attack is the best form of defence, I suppose, over in the town, and, well, that didn't really work out for him. Shot there from the Lanson, thankfully a low damage roll from that 105mm gun, 320 Alpha there. Char Future, no damage into the French medium tank. Somewhat ironic, given that one of the more recent replays, or videos I showed, featured El Capitan Vistic here in the Char Future 4, but, you know, there we go. There's only 3 of them left on the enemy team at this point. A Lanson, Char Future 4, and is that it's an M41D. You don't see those very often. I believe that's the Chinese premium variant of the light tank, and not played it myself, but as far as I can work out, it's generally considered to be trash. So, put the driver back in there, bully this Lanson. This Lanson is not having a good day, and the friendly Liberté takes him out. Char Future is down, and that's it. Game over. Let's have a look at the stats. So there we go. Ace, Tanker, Spotter, Bruiser, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, and a Confederate medal, which you don't see as often in these sorts of replays. And it's quite nice to see occasionally. And, like, that was just a really good game overall. 6,170 damage done is a lot, but no kills. None. 0, zip, zilch, nada. Not a sausage. And so do you see what I mean? 10 kills in the first game, no kills in this game. Let's average it out and say 5 kills apiece, right? 1,711 base XP is a lot by anybody's standards, and the enemy team just took a bit of a pasting. But, interestingly, if you compare the performance of the friendly and the enemy team, yes, the friendly team did better overall, but the most obvious example of that is comparing El Capitan here with the performance of his counterpart on the enemy team in the Char Future. 2,270 damage isn't bad for a tier 9 medium tank, but 6,170 damage from a tier 8 in a tier 9 match is considerably better. Okay, RNG was a little bit on his side, his shots tended to go where he aimed them, blah 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 blah, but it was still a good game. 20 shots fired, 17 hits, 16 pens for that damage count, sorry, most of which was from a nice close range. 5 hits received, 3 penned, 2 did not, 3 enemy vehicles spotted, 9 damage, no kills, 1,601 assistance damage, 1.48 kilometers travelled, and it was all over in less than 5 minutes. When you rack everything up, that was a lot. That was a 235,208 credit income. Okay, 20,000 credits on shells, 20,000 credits on cola, because he was using cola, no premium ammo fired though, I don't believe, and a few credits on repairing his vehicle. That was still basically 190,000 credit profit in under 5 minutes. That was pretty good. And a nice amount of experience as well. There we go. It was a good result. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoyed that pair of replays there. If you did, by all means, feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. You can put your own replays upload them to whatreplays.com, copy the URL, shove it on Discord, links in the description to Discord and Patreon, and as ever, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.